I think for patients seeing that the owner actually works in the practice, I think,
Right.
it makes them realize that, hey, I'm at a place that really the owner cares because she's actually sitting here treating me.
Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset, everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer. Be sure to head over to clicksandbricksacademy.com so you can access all the resources to start improving your sales today.
Today we have Dahlia from Sports Ortho. She has 9 locations up north. She's competing against some of the biggest players in the country. Super excited about today's episode and bringing Dahlia on. But before we get started, if you'd like to join my text line community, my number is 314-370-2871. You can ask me any question about business or technology, and I'll do my best, reach into my network, and give you the most honest, genuine answer that I possibly can at absolutely no charge. I'll never try to sell you anything on that text line. I'm to send you tips and tricks, and every now and then some crypto or NFT news. How you doing, Dahlia?
I'm good. How are you?
Thank you for joining us today. I'm doing fantastic. I'm having a great day.
Thanks.
You?
I'm having a great day too. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Can you tell the audience a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so my name is Dahlia Fahmy. I'm a physical therapist. I'm actually Canadian. I graduated in 1993 in Canada and moved to the States after that. And I've opened my business, Sports Ortho Physical Therapy, in 2003. And here we are 18 years later and still going strong.
Fantastic. So you had told me before we jumped on the show that you were in corporate America, kind of doing some stuff, and made the decision to make this transition into being your own business owner. Can you tell the audience a little bit about what that journey was like for you, what your mindset was like, what hurdles you might have had, and how you got from corporate America and now you're your own business owner?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, being kind of thrown in at a very young age into corporate America, I worked at a hospital and became their director 2 years out of school, and had all this responsibility. And
that's pretty impressive. Director after 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the age of 25, kind of like was almost thrown into it. And from then on, everybody that I worked for, it was kind of like, okay, you're hired to improve our processes, get our therapy clinics going, get more patients through the door. And after doing that for quite a few years for everybody else, I decided I might as well do it for myself. So I took the plunge and opened up my own practice.
Fantastic. Now, when you started, just one location?
Just one location, yeah.
Right. And
it was just me.
You parlayed that into now you have a total of 9 locations, 7 for adults and 2 for children.
Correct.
Where I'm at, I'm in St. Louis, so we're just south of you guys.
Yeah.
I don't think that we have a pediatric PT center anywhere in the area. Is that fairly unique, or is that something that's fairly common?
Yeah, you probably do. You just probably don't know about it because there's definitely not as many pediatric clinics out there. The reason we opened one is actually my youngest son has Down syndrome. So when he was a baby, I was kind of saying to myself, where am I going to take this child to really get good therapy? Because I wanted him to have the best. And we decided, well, if we could do it for adults, we could do it for kids. So we opened up Imagine. It's actually a subdivision of Sports Ortho called Imagine Pediatric Therapy.
That is fantastic. I don't talk about this much. I don't think I've ever talked about it on the show, but I'm a Shriner. And I get to go to the Shriners hospitals quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's wildly gratifying working with kids with injuries. And if you don't know what the Shriners are, we help kids of burn victims and bone problems. So, and it's totally free to the patients, which is a phenomenal organization of what the Shriners do for the kids in the world. And I love that you took that personal experience of a differently enabled child and said, you know what, I don't have the services here in my area, so I'm going to create it. And I think that's a really great thing to do. It's anytime in business when you're looking for a solution to a problem and you just cannot find it, it's generally, I mean, you got to do a little market research. Maybe the market's not there and that's why you can't find it. But if you believe that the market's there, then that's typically a good sign of a successful business that you can go into, right? And especially when you have something like Down syndrome that you know is, I don't want to say the word popular, but it's not it's there, right? There's no doubt about it. It's in our world. And so, the demand is there for that kind of therapy, and it's hard to find.
Down syndrome, autism, all the kids with special needs,
Yes.
Yeah. So
and the audience does know I do have a special needs son. My son's nonverbal autistic, and there's very little luckily we have great resources from the state here in Missouri for autism, but there's not a whole lot of private companies that deal with boys and girls that have my son's condition, because it's
you're right.
It takes
you're
a special kind of patience.
Yes.
But
They're
anyway,
awesome.
Moving forward right through that, we talked a little bit before the show started. Can you tell the audience a little bit more about your story of going from corporate America into that first store? Like, what was your mindset? What was like some of the hurdles that you had?
You know, I moved to Chicago from Florida, actually. And when I moved here, I decided that I was going to take my MBA. And my final project was on opening up Sports and Ortho, because I wanted to prove to myself on paper that I could do it. And so that was my final paper. And the professor actually, you know, took my paper and he took me aside, and he's like, you know, you have a solid business plan. Like you could do this. And I was like, that was my plan. I'm gonna do it. But it was really nice to hear from him that he thought I could do it. So that gave me more confidence to know that I would be successful. Luckily, I found an area that didn't have a physical therapy clinic here in Chicago. It's like it's Bridgeport, actually, where the mayor of Chicago grew up. And I decided that was where I was going to start. And I just decided to do it. So sometimes you have to just jump right in.
Fantastic. If you jump, then that will appear. And you said you got lucky, but you didn't get lucky. You went out looking for a solution, and we get what we go looking for. If you go looking for something, eventually, if you have enough tenacity, you'll end up finding the thing that you're looking for. And it doesn't matter what it is. If it's a $1 billion company that you're looking for, if you look for it every single day, eventually you will have it. I promise. Fantastic. So now you are a 9-shop orthopedic, sports and ortho. You're up in Chicago. Are all 9 locations in Chicago Metro?
We have a couple in the suburbs. So Glenview, Evanston. Our pediatric is in Oak Lawn. So We've got some suburbs. Yeah.
I've got some friends that own businesses in Chicago, and there's some great things about Chicago business, especially for brick and mortar guys that have storefronts. Right, the foot traffic is amazing. So a lot of things that don't work in some suburban areas work really well in Chicago, just simply because, or big cities, because there's so much foot traffic. Right, it's hard not to do business. But you have a very niche, like somebody has this very specific problem when they're looking for you, and they're going and getting doctor recommendations and all kinds of other things. So what would 3 habits or personality traits that you have that you think are vital for a business owner when you're competing in a highly, highly competitive market against nationwide known brands? And although you've done wild things with 9 stores, seems really big, but it's not thousands, right? And that's different. So they can do things with their pricing that you can't do. They can be more aggressive with their marketing, and they have more capital than you do to advertise. So what are the habits that you have that keep you going on a daily basis when you're up against that kind of challenge?
Well, one of them is I've never stopped working at Sports and Ortho. So, you know, when I'm in there myself treating patients every single day and you know, still in the trenches of it all, it gives you a lot more perspective on, okay, what are the patients looking for? You know, are we doing a good job? Are patients happy? Are doctors happy? You know, so for me, staying within the business and actually treating patients I feel has made my business grow, because people see that I'm fully vested. Not only patients, but also my staff can see like, hey, she's one of us. So I think that has, you know, helped us a lot.
For me, as a consumer and as a business owner, I love the owner-operator model, because it's just so much more personal when you're dealing with somebody. That if you know the owner, you have a really good expectation of, if I have a problem, I know who to talk to. I'm not going to get a script kid that's just reading a script to me at the front desk if I have a problem.
Yeah, and I think for patients, seeing that the owner actually works in the practice, I think, you know, it makes them realize that, hey, I'm at a place that really the owner cares, because she's actually sitting here treating me.
Right. And I'm going to throw a caveat in there for everybody, all business owners out there. If you're owner operated, you have to have a good balance there. You can't just be working in your business all the time. You have to have a good balance. You do some work inside the business so you know what's going on, but most of your time really should be spent working on the business. But jumping in those trenches and popping back out is still, I think, a really, really good idea. It gives it helps your employees out tremendously. If they know that the boss is willing to roll up their sleeves and do the same work next to them as they are, the camaraderie there is wildly important. And you're not this guy in an ivory tower, right? You'll get down and do all your stuff with your team. It does huge benefits there, and your clientele recognize it almost immediately when it's owner operated. But it is a little bit dangerous to play on both sides of that fence, because you can get lost in the details when you jump back over on working on your business. So I think it's great advice to stay in the trenches, but also be wary of, I need to work on my business more than I work in my business. But we did this because we love doing it. And if we don't get to go back in the trenches every now and then, what's the point?
I agree with you that it's a really hard balance between, for me too, like, because I do treat a lot. And a lot of times I'm like, maybe I'm better served if I was working more on the business and less in the business. It's a really fine balance. And it's hard to find that balance, but I would agree with you that you have to work on it and in it.
And at the end of the day, you do what makes you happy, right? And if you just love working in your business, sell a big part of it and be an employee. Like, if that's really your joy, then go for it and do that. But if your goal
but then
is
you have to listen.
Then you have to have a boss, right? But
then you have to listen to other people, and that's not going to work either. So.
But you can be creative in your contracts. So stay in the trenches is tip number 1. What's tip number 2?
Number 2 for me, well, in my business anyways, is quality over quantity. I think when people come to us, they realize the quality of, like, it's not just, in my business, I hear a lot like, oh, I went to this place and it was a factory. I hear that a lot, that word, it was like a factory. And we definitely don't, my business is like, we want to provide the quality. We don't care about the numbers as much as the quality of the care, because that's what builds our business. It's the quality versus the quantity.
Absolutely. So that's knowing your product, right? Really honing down. And your product is a very white glove service for sports and ortho. I've been to those factories and I've been to the nicer places. I definitely like the nicer places a lot better. I feel like I recover faster and get a much better result, but that's knowing your product. And there's been a lot of businesses out there that didn't know what their product was, and they tried to expand and destroyed their business. So if you're a concierge service orthopedic place, you need to stay that. You need to stay in your lane. Don't for a second compromise on cleanliness in your place, or I can get more people in here if I knock down these walls and had a little less privacy, right? Or any of those things. You got to know what your product is and why your target audience is coming to you over that competitor, right? I mean, if it was all about price, there would be no Chris's Steakhouse. Everything would be McDonald's. It's not like people want that difference, and that's what capitalism's all about. Yes. I think that's great advice, knowing your product and never compromising on quality, even if you think it could get you a little bit more money.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. And the third tip?
Yeah. The third one is really pushing my employees to be the best and expecting, the quality coming from them and not expecting anything less. And that can be hard sometimes, but I feel like we give them the tools that they need to be the best.
Yeah, so that's I struggle with that one a lot, and it is always expectation, but you also have to, I get this a lot, not everybody's you, Ken. As employees, they're not invested like you are. So it's really, really challenging to have, you can't expect your employees to operate at the level in which you operate, right? You can't expect them to leave at 5:30 and at 6 o'clock be thinking about a new strategy for how do I get more seats in the chairs, or how do I expand the business. They're not thinking about that. They're going home to their families and living their lives, and that's okay. So you cannot expect the same performance out of your staff as you do out of yourself. And that's a big challenge that business owners have to overcome. It's one that I had to overcome. I think I'm probably still overcoming it. But in today's world, post-COVID, it's now an employee's market. It's no longer the employer's market, right? So I think the industry average is a 30% increase in pay across the board. And we didn't get to raise our rates 30%, right? We might have got to raise our rates by 10 or 15% at the most. So our payroll's higher, and our staff right now, it's a weird environment for a lot of companies, right? They're not really grumpy, but they kind of come in with the attitude of, I can go get another job in a second if I wanted to. And it's a different world, whereas I think even, 2 years ago, it was like, I don't want to get fired. And I think people still have that, but they also know they don't need you anymore. So pushing them for that high level of excellence can be challenging at times in today's world.
Yeah, but for me, we're a physical therapy clinic. So, and what I mean by, that I expect a lot from my employees is that as a physical therapist, I want somebody who's, I guess I should say, I just want people who are passionate about their job. And so we expect our therapists to be passionate about their jobs, but we give them the tools to be passionate. So we pay for them to go to continuing education. We pay for them to learn a lot and be the best. When I say that I expect a lot, I just expect them to want to be the best. I don't put the same expectations on them as I do on myself. Right. But I think that you need to have expectations for them to live up to, kind of thing, Absolutely. I think it makes it challenging for them to improve their skills.
Fantastic. Yeah. I think continued education is huge. And you are in an industry where you have 100% skilled labor. Everybody has some kind of continued education to even be in that position. They still have a substantial amount of education. So they've invested already in being in this line of work. And I don't know a lot about the economics of owning a sports orthopedic center, but I'm imagining that the barrier to entry is not, I'm assuming it's somewhat significant.
Yeah, it's not the equipment is not significant. It's the staff that's significant.
Right. And the insurance and the paperwork that you have to do to get that, that first doors open. Do you take also insurance?
Yeah, we
that's
take
an entire
insurance,
learning curve all in its own, right? The ability to accept insurance. So learning curves there are pretty big. So I think when you're dealing with skilled labor, your expectations can be a little bit higher. In today's world, though, I think we really need to be thinking about, as business owners, how do we create environments for our staff long term that's going to keep them engaged and motivated to be doing their best work? So if we're going to have high expectations of our staff, the staff damn well better have high expectations of their management, making sure that they have the right tools and the right education to do their job properly.
Absolutely.
So fantastic. Absolutely. I think that's a fantastic answer. I love all three. To recap, stay in the trenches. Second one was quality over quantity. Yeah. And then the last one is high expectations from your staff. And there's ways that you can do that. But if you're going to have a high expectation, then expect them to have a high expectation of what you're providing them, right?
Absolutely.
You're providing them with good quality pay. You're providing them with a fun place to work. Every now and then you get happy hours on Friday nights. You're continuing their education, right? You're creating a community, right? That's what we're doing. If we're creating a business, we're creating multiple communities, and you don't realize that when you first start, but you're creating your staff community and you're creating your client community, and it's you're managing both of them, and you've got to be the spearhead of that ship at all times, right? And never do you get a chance to relax. Fantastic. So Dahlia, I love your advice. It's really great stuff, and it's slightly different than what I hear every day. So I definitely like that as well. Now, we talked a little bit about technology before, and we talked about maybe the future of technology. We talked about what tools maybe you had before, and we came up with a really unique way to pose this question. Is there some technology that you think you should have today that would make your life easier that you've not been able to find?
Absolutely. So, the one complaint of myself as a therapist and every single therapist is how long it takes for us to do documentation. And also just keeping track, because everything in physical therapy is based on time, the time that you spent with the patient. So there is no, as far as I know, and maybe there is out there, technology that first of all, when patients come, that they can clock into a tablet and then clock out of a tablet. I know that I've seen, like, when I go to doctors' offices, you can clock in, but there's never a clock out feature. And the other thing is something that we could use where patients can fill out before they even come to their session on how they're feeling, what they did they do their exercises or not, where it pre-fills everything for you, so that when they come in front of you, you don't have to you already know, what happened yesterday, instead of having to sit there and type and ask them the questions. That would save therapists so much time, where they can actually then spend it with their patients instead of having to sit there and type and write and do all that, because the patient would have already filled that out before they even came. So if anybody knows anything like that, let me know.
Actually, I thought all the time, I am severely dyslexic, like massively dyslexic. I type I'm probably one of the better typers you've ever seen in your life, because I've been typing since I was a little kid, because they're like, this kid can't write. My handwriting's horrible. I literally tell the doctor, I can't write this. I can't do this. And I'm like, I'll dictate for you and you can write it out, but I'm not. If you want me to do it, I'm just going to write my signature, because it's all going to be scribble anyway. My handwriting's not legible. So,
it wouldn't be handwritten. It would be like typed in, or even if they could dictate it or something, or
absolutely. I might be able to help you out there a little bit. We could talk later. Do you have any, if somebody was in Chicago area and they wanted to get a hold of you and look you up, how would they do that?
They would go to sportsandortho.net, and they would find our website, and it has all our locations, and even Imagine Pediatric Therapy is listed on there.
Right. And that's sportsandortho.net. The link will be clickable under the video. And if you're listening to this online, it'll also be in the profile as well. Thank you so much for your time today, Dahlia. Do you have anything that you would like to leave the audience with?
The one thing I'd like to leave my audience with is that if you're looking for a physical therapist, just know that it is your choice. You never have to go to where other people tell you to go. Like, do your homework. Physical therapy, it's not, it's not one size fits all, and not everybody is the same. So I would just say, do your homework just like you would do a homework if you needed a surgery and you're doing homework on a surgeon. I would say do your homework on the physical therapy, because it's a big part of rehabilitation, and it's a really big part of rehabilitation. Yeah, and if you don't do it right, or you don't have somebody who does it right, it can really affect you for the rest of your life. And that's like maybe dramatic to say, but quite honestly, it's the truth. So just do your homework and make sure you feel like you're getting the quality that you deserve. And like I said, it's your choice. It's always your choice where you go. It's not your doctor's choice. It's not anybody else's choice. It's your choice.
Absolutely. I believe that today's world, people probably vet their air conditioning repair person more than they do their doctors.
I know.
Right. It's crazy. And I feel like the medical system has been set up in such a way that you just go in and you just do whatever they recommend. Right. But that's just a recommendation. Yeah. It's one recommendation from one person that might be getting a kickback from somebody. So really take some time and look at this stuff. Feel free you can ask your doctor, is there anybody else? Like, is there anybody else in the area that I can go to? And they'll, I've always had really good luck when I ask the doctor, because there's one I've had multiple surgeries in my life. And the last one, I didn't like the physical therapist that they sent me to. So I asked them, I was like, hey, is there somewhere else that I can go? And they worked with me and cooperated with me. And I got the physical therapist that I needed for my injuries. Yeah. So I think that's really good advice, to not just take whatever's handed to you and run with it. Don't take it at face value. Take a little bit, question it, look it up, do some research, and go interview them. Why would you not interview the person that you're going to put in front of your body and say, hey, fix this for the rest of my life?
Yes.
Right? Because you're going to be spending time with them. You want to like them, right? You want to make sure their place is clean, right? I know that I spend, 2 hours a week with my therapist after surgery for 6 weeks, and then 1 hour a week for another 6 weeks. That's sometimes more time than I spend with my kids. So I want to make sure that I at least get along with them. So that's fantastic advice. Thank you, Dahlia, for your time today. Very much appreciate it. And I hope the audience got some kind of great value out of your tips. I know that I did.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. That's it for today's show, folks. Again, if you'd like to join my text line community, it's 314-370-2871. Just send that number, any text question about business or technology, and I'll do my best to answer it at absolutely no charge. That's it for today. Get to work.